You're listening to the PARM podcast, the pod to lead you through agricultural risk management stories, practices, and tips.
Hello, welcome to our very first episode of the PARM podcast series. My name is Dorcas Mayala Ntumba. Today, we are going to talk about gender mainstreaming in agricultural risk management. Gender is a way to really take into consideration the specific needs of men, women, youth, as well as of different groups, especially the most vulnerable or marginalized groups within the community they live. When it comes to agricultural risk management, women and men have different ways to act and react, in particular different capacities to manage the risk they face. Why and how do we integrate gender dimensions into agricultural risk management strategies? And what are the gender gaps or challenges in current agricultural risk management strategies? To discuss these issues, we invited Ms Désirée Zwanck, gender specialist at PARM, the platform for agricultural risk management hosted by IFAD. Hello, Ms Désirée Zwanck.
Hello.
Welcome to this podcast.
Thank you, Dorcas.
Why do you think it is important to integrate a gender dimension into agricultural risk management, and what does it mean to you?
To me, it is important to underline that I believe women and men should have equal appreciation in agriculture, should have their needs met, should be served in equitable ways, so that their potential to produce, their potential to be food sufficient, and their potential to manage risks can be fully actualized. So we need to integrate a gender dimension into agricultural risk management in order to be able to analyze in which way do the agricultural risks affect men and women farmers. And also we need to take into account that women have less access to agricultural risk management systems, which are actually poorly adapted to their needs and often more beneficial to male farmers. We need to also understand that women and men do not respond to risk in the same way. Therefore, it is important to distinguish and differentiate, not just by sex. It's also important to take into account other dimensions such as age. Young farmers, youth often have other perspectives, other needs as well. And we need to take into account factors such as the status of the farmers and many other factors that can play a role. So we need to take an intersectional approach as well.
What do you think are the gender gaps or challenges in current agricultural risk management strategies?
At this stage where we are now, we still have large gaps in terms of data to understand and to analyze the gender dimension of agricultural risk management. And we also still lack a deeper understanding of the strategies and tools that we can apply so that men and women can manage and absorb risk impacts and resilience, and focus on reducing output or income volatility according to their specific experiences, needs, social status, and so on and so forth. So basically, we still have a long way to go in terms of having research, experience, best practices, learning, monitoring, evaluation, and so on of any kind of agricultural risk management projects or programs that meaningfully have integrated gender. So what I'm trying to say is we have data and knowledge gap.
Along with other technical experts, you conducted a study on gender in agricultural risk management in 2019, commissioned by PARM. What impact did it have in the agricultural risk management sector?
I would say difficult to measure the impact of this study. But what we do know is that the study has been accessed by hundreds of practitioners through the PARM website, and that it has been broadly shared also through workshops across especially African countries, workshops conducted by PARM, and that we have also been able to present it through different webinar and presentations. So there definitely is a distribution of this information that is contained in this groundbreaking study. It was really the first analytical framework and toolkit for gender in agricultural risk management. And what we are hoping is that this has launched more reflection, that there is more thinking around gender in agricultural risk management. And I believe that this has also given some ground or some foundation for additional work that has happened in PARM and with its partners. So, for example, in Insured Partnership, there is now a lot of work around gender in agricultural risk insurance. And we just think that it could still go further. And there is still a need to share more about this topic and to have more discussion around it.
So according to you, we need to disseminate more the study, right?
Yes, and discuss it more.
How to make sure that transversal integration of gender does not just remain an empty phrase?
Thank you. That's a great question, actually, because what we see a lot of the time is what I call gender washing, where many actors in the agricultural risk management space and beyond will claim that they integrate gender transversally, but that can mean anything and nothing. Because what we need, yes, it's true, we need to think about gender and to integrate gender at all stages of the cycle of agricultural risk management. However, we also need to be very specific about gender. So that means we need concrete budgets, concrete data, actions, and we need to also have accountability for gender. We need to have responsibility for it and ownership over it at all levels of the intervention. And if we just say transversal, in the end, if no one is accountable or responsible, if there are no concrete action and there's no money to actually do the work on gender, then it simply will not happen, and it will remain like empty phrases, work that is halfway done. Oftentimes it's really very basic, and you don't see the change that could be happening in terms of improving the participation of women and men and different groups in agricultural risk management, in the terms of improving the ability of different groups and showing the impact of that. So I would really make a case for having from the get-go gender specialists who are advising any intervention, who are there and present at every stage of the project cycle, training for the different stakeholders and especially the practitioners along the project cycle on gender, and very clear lines of accountability, very clear ways of measuring outcomes, and very clear obligation to actually fund and report on the gender activities.
As a gender specialist in agricultural risk management, what tailored actions or activities do you concretely suggest in agricultural risk management strategies, projects, or programs?
I would say that it's really important to be specific in agricultural risk management. So we don't necessarily just want to look at inequality gaps, but we want to look at the risk analysis, the strategies and tools with a gender lens, so that men and women can be strengthened alongside each other. And so, in my opinion, my job is really to be focused on the solutions and to ensure that there is, for example, equal participation or meaningful participation as well. Just because, for example, in a community consultation, there's an equal number of men and women present, it does not mean that they are both meaningfully participating. So I advise in the process on strategies to make sure that all groups are involved in the decision-making processes, that they can contribute, leveraging women and men's knowledge for agricultural risk management. And this really means that we ensure that actors in the field can be involved in an equitable and egalitarian fashion in the design and the implementation and reporting on agricultural risk management. So this can also affect information systems, for example. And then another part of the work that I do is to support teams in making the selected tools for agricultural risk management as gender informed as possible. So this also means that we commission research and field missions that are gender responsive and are looking at what role gender plays all along the value chain, and then how the different selected tools can have effects disaggregated by gender and, for example, also by age on the populations that are being supported in the agricultural risk management. This also means that I support the work with education and research institutions so that they themselves can be informed about the costs and benefit and effectiveness of gender-sensitive tools, and that they can apply this knowledge in their work. Another very important area, I mean, I could go on, but before I close, I also like to think a lot about training. Training is a very important part of agricultural risk management, and we have a real opportunity there to not just apply a gender responsive approach, but gender transformative, in the sense that it really transforms the relations between men and women and the lives of the beneficiaries of these trainings. So the training should be an empowering experience, and that means when planning and when organizing, facilitating, designing these trainings, the roles, responsibilities, and decision-making power and the specific needs and levels of literacy, for example, of men and women are taken into account, that their existing knowledge is taken into account, and that really every measure is taken so that they will be empowered to lastingly take agricultural risk management in their own hands, maybe sometimes in areas where previously they never had training and they never were empowered to take such important decisions or to benefit from innovation, modern technologies, and so on.
To end up this interview, what would be your last message to governments, technical and financial partners, international organizations, women, and agricultural risk management practitioners on this specific matter about gender integration into agricultural risk management?
That's a good overview of the different actors who are involved in agricultural risk management, and I'll try to be brief. So for governments, I think it's very important that they invest in promoting gender in their own institutions and providing the budget and the expertise at their level as well, because we often are dealing with partners who still need additional training and support on gender, and it can make the partnership unequal, and sometimes it can be difficult to collaborate around gender issues. So it can be helpful for governments to promote gender champions and focal points in their institutions, and to share consistent and repeated messaging and training, capacity building for their staff, and to provide the budgets that are needed so that actual gender actions and strategies can be applied at that level. I think also governments have a real responsibility to collect gender disaggregated data in the areas that are relevant for agricultural risk management. For technical and financial partners, all I can say is continue to demand accountability. So technical and financial partners have to hold themselves accountable for gender integration, and they have to also demand that the partners they're working with and the partners they are funding do the same, and that there's clear responsibility over the outcomes when it comes to gender responsiveness. International organizations, I think, still have a long way to go when it comes to meaningfully integrating gender experts into their teams. I think there's something very concrete that could be done. What we see a lot of the time is in project cycle management, gender experts are not budgeted at all, or if they are budgeted, they come in very late in the project. And I think that's a shame. So there can be more effort made on this, and maybe also efforts to strengthen the pipeline in the countries that we are working in, so that there's no need to always bring parachuted gender experts from abroad. To women specifically, I think I would say that women are also a part of the solution. So women in themselves are actually a solution for agricultural risk management. And I think that it's important that women are really aware and confident in themselves, that agricultural risk management is not outside of their scope. In fact, research shows that women save more money in grain stocks than men, have greater reimbursement rates in case of formal loans, and they have a smaller preference for present expenses than men, invest more on children and education. And we see that investment in women is highly beneficial, and women are often more risk averse than men. And what I would really say to women is affirm yourselves, take the risk, take the loan, ensure that you are heard and that you obtain the resources that you need, because you really are an important pillar of agricultural risk management. So you're not just beneficiaries who need to be helped and who need to be supported, but you actually are the solution. And I would say equally to men, it's very important that women are recognized in agricultural risk management. You cannot do it on your own. And really, everybody will win in the end if there is an equality approach. It's not a game where one party wins and the other party loses, but really everyone together can come up with better solutions for risk management. And finally, for agricultural risk management practitioners, I would just say keep studying, keep reading. There's a lot to learn. There's a lot happening. We now have the practitioner community with PARM-D, which is really a well of gender knowledge and exchange. I would just say, keep going to any gender conference that you can find, keep reading any article that you come across, do your research, take the training. It's really so helpful, because really gender will enhance the quality of your work. I promise. It will make it more effective, more efficient. You'll have better outcomes. You will have a clearer theory of change. You will have a better business case for future funding, and you have more rounded data. So all in all, it really is not about necessarily equality, that's in itself, but it's also just about doing better work in agricultural risk management.
Ms Désirée Zwanck, thank you for responding to our invitation.
Thank you for having me. Thank you for hearing me, Ms. Dorcas, and I'm always happy to continue the conversation.
That brings us to the end of this episode 1 of the PARM podcast series. Thanks for listening. You will meet Anaïs Petitjean in the next episode. Stay tuned in our community of practice at cop.farm-d.org for more stories about agricultural risk management. Goodbye.